Tanzania has cancelled its Independence Day celebrations amid planned opposition demonstrations. Welcome to the Ugandan Stains. How are you and where are you watching us from? I told you that here we obviously have to deal with the entire East African continent in there for you, and Africa at large, even the world. We drop in those stories that make you think that it's really the channel that you are supposed to be tuned in. In a surprise move, Tanzania's Prime Minister Mwigulu Nchemba announced the country's annual Tanganyika Independence Day celebration, scheduled for 9th December 2025, will not take place. The decision comes as a shock to many Tanzanians who have been observing this significant day since 1961, marking the country's experience from colonial rule. However, the cancellation of the celebrations is not the only story making headlines in Tanzania. The country is still reeling from a highly disputed presidential election where President Samia Suluhu Hassan won with a landslide 98% of the vote. The opposition has been vocal in the allegations of widespread irregularities, torture, enforced disappearance, violence, and other forms of human rights violations in the country. The opposition says over 2,000 people were killed by police during the election unrest, where up to several families are here to get the bodies of their loved ones. You understand? With others are unaccounted for. The cancellation of Independence Day also comes days after a section of the population, mainly from the opposition, announced that they will stage a mother of all demonstrations on the same day during the celebration. The opposition insists that there were no elections in Tanzania and demands that President Samia Suluhu steps down. That's what you're getting from Tanzania. We all know to eat that on the 9th of December, the opposition has planned a demonstration, and they refer to it as the mother of all demonstrations. Now, what is the way forward for the government? The government has tested the wrath of all these Tanzanians, and they are like, we are not gonna give them a chance, and we are not going to go into the celebrations. And what you're gonna be doing is, we are ready to face them, and the face-off is obviously gonna be bloody. The opposition has not pulled off the demonstrations. The government has pulled them off, and I think they are obviously going to strategize to see to it that all really goes on well as planned. But the other next step is the internet going to be turned off? Because when you saw that documentary from CNN, it was a 5-minute documentary from CNN, people were really capturing certain things on their phones, and others were satellite images that we have gotten from what we call the satellites that are up in the sky of Tanzania. And very many shocking clips were really distributed, and thousands of people were buried. Mass graves were really made. And guess what? Samia Suluhu Hassan is ready to face off. And if I told you Samia Suluhu Hassan, after a massacre of those masses, you cannot allow to get into a mess like this. But if you cannot allow to get into a mess like this, that means you're willing to give power to the people of Tanzania, something that she's not ready to do. And the people are like, we are coming. And one thing I've gonna hate to know about these demonstrations, when they start in the country, they never stop. You know, look at Kenya. You know, Kenyans can go ahead and flock the streets and see to it that they make the change they want. You understand? So it has become the end of the day for Kenya. And to show you that Kenya is a champion of demonstrations and riots in East Africa, even when in Tanzania they're really demonstrating, Kenyans, you know, had to go and cross the border to offer support. And in the due course, some Kenyans were really killed. You understand? So that's all about Kenya in there for you. And I tell you what, a lot is obviously going to be happening in there. So we wait and see how things really happen at the side known as Tanzania. And today is 25th, meaning that we are like 13 days away from the 9th. Now, a lot of ears are going to be on the ground in Tanzania to hear what is taking place, and hear onto the Ugandan stance. We'll be bringing you all the stories coming in through from Tanzania as they unveil, because the world is now looking at Tanzania. You know, UN scrapping off aid from Tanzania, you understand, because of what will went ahead to happen in there. So that's the story we had in here about Tanzania. Independence celebrations have been called off, and we don't know what exactly is going to be happening in there. But all in all, we still bring you the news. In Uganda, it's the same thing. Yesterday, tear gas and bullets, you know, Ichi water, where the order of the day, as Bobby Wine went ahead to canvass the areas of Kawempe South and Kawempe North, as he's left with, I think, some 45 days to obviously see himself face off Museveni in an election that many people think is already reached in the country. Good morning, and continue to subscribe because we want to hit 200,000 subscribers.